In this video, I will demonstrate how to create a calendar. We will log in with the user ID we created earlier. We are signed in. We'll click on the navigation button. Select Setup and Maintenance. We will look for our project by clicking on Implementation Projects. This is the project we were working on. We click on the project name, MX Implementation Project. We will search for calendars because we're going to create a calendar. So we can use the %sign to do a partial search for calendar. Press this arrow button for go search. Here we have define calendars, manage accounting calendars. So each one of them will take us to the same particular form to define a calendar. So we can click on this task list and see all the options. Define calendar. Under define calendar, we have these options: define chart of account, define calendar, define currency. So we can click on this expand button and see the options under define calendar. We have manage accounting calendar and manage transaction calendars. So we have to define an accounting calendar. So we will click on this particular task. This will take us to the screen where all the calendars are defined. So here all these calendars are already defined in this instance. We will create a new one by clicking on this create icon. Here we have to define a calendar. So basically the calendar is used by any organization to maintain its periods. So we have to tell the system that what is the start date of a calendar and how many periods we need in a particular calendar. So every organization have different calendars. Some organizations start their fiscal calendar from January, some started from July. So we have to define whichever client we are at, we have to ask the client and define that calendar. Defining a calendar is mandatory because this calendar we're going to attach with in our configuration with our ledgers and setup books. Here we will define MX calendar. This is the name of the calendar. We can give a more detailed descriptions if required. The start date, usually the start date, it's the best practice to give the start date to the earliest date where the historical transactions will start from. So for this particular exercise, I'm going to put January 2017. Period frequency, whether the periods will be monthly, either they are quarterly or it's 4-week period. So most of the time whenever I have implemented for clients, I have always seen a monthly calendar. So we'll take it simple and we will say the fiscal calendar will be monthly. Any predefined prefixes, we will leave that for now. Separators are the separation between the month and the year. So whatever we select in separator and format screen, this is how it shows up. So we say we don't want, if we assume that we don't want a dash, we can say a slash. So you can see that it changed. This is how the period will look like. So let's keep it to standard, which is a dash. And how the format should be, whether it's three characters of a month and 2 characters are digits of the year. This is how you want it. This is how it's being displayed here in the first period, or we can change it to any other different format. Let's try this one. So when we change this, you can see how it's going to look like. So this is a one-time thing. So be careful how your client wants it. So set it into appropriate format. I personally prefer this particular format for our calendars. Adjusting period frequency. So this is basically the adjusting period in which when you're closing a period and when you're closing a fiscal year, which particular you define a period in which you want to post your adjustment entries. So every organization have its own criteria, but generally I have seen the clients always put put a last period at the end of the fiscal year for putting their adjustment entries, which is going to be period 13. So each month is one period, and so there are 12 periods for accounting transaction, and there is a 13th period to post the adjustment entries. This is generally how I have seen it in multiple client sites. So we will keep the same. Once at the beginning of the year and once at the end of the year. No, once mid-year and once at the end. Once mid-year and twice at the once at year end. So this is generally this is a pretty much default which people generally use. So I will take that once at year end. Once you have done with these particular setups, press next. System will automatically define all the months. So people who are coming from EBS background, if you remember, you have to, when we're defining a calendar in Oracle EBS, we have to define each month. But that's not the case in Cloud or in Fusion. When you define a period where you say this is the starting period, system automatically define all the months for you, which is basically a little bit of time saving. So here you can assume the start date, which I have given is that. Period frequency is monthly. So as you note, it start from January till December, and then we have another period on the 13th of December as a adjustment period. Okay, so now save and close. So we have our MX calendar here. Say done. Now as we are done with this particular task, what we should do, we should go into edit status and change the status of this task to completed. So if our team logs in and look at this project, they can see which particular tasks have been completed. Save and close. So you can see the status is now changed to completed. Press done. So this is how we will define a calendar. In the next video, I will show you how to define or enable a currency.